everyone, Tim with Collect Jurassic, back with another news update talking about new Mattel Jurassic toys on the way. Of course, we're talking about 2021's Dino Escape assortments, in particular Fierce Force, which we talked about in our last news update, but we have some more figures for that assortment to go over, as well as Roar Attack, which we really haven't looked at in an official capacity at all on the YouTube channel, so really excited to show off those new figures. There's some big surprises in that assortment as well, but we'll go ahead and start off with Fierce Force. As I noted last week when we went over it, there is a couple new species, but we have even more figures to look at today, aside from the Masiakasaurus and the Velociraptor, which we already looked at here on the channel, but we'll go over those ones here again as well. But Sora, Pelta, Dilophosaurus, Gallimimus, and I believe it's pronounced Chia Longasaurus, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, are all on the way as well. And we'll go over each one, starting with this Masiakasaurus, which we did already kind of discuss in a previous video, but we'll go over it one more time. This dinosaur species is sort of a weird one. It's got this funny shaped skull that splays out in the front, and sort of the teeth sort of spread out too. So they tried to capture that in the toy form, and I think they did a pretty decent job. Hard to tell from just one photo, one angle, what this thing actually looks like, but you know, there'll be more photos on the way so we can really get a better judge on it at that time. But let's go ahead and head to the next figure, which is a repaint of Sora Pelta, the second repaint ever of Sora Pelta. But I'm really digging this new version. I love the contrast of the dark and light underbelly. Of course, those horns pop a lot from the whole thing being painted separately. But really, I just love the naturalistic feel. The first version had a very bright, you know, kind of reddish orange color. It wasn't very naturalistic, but this one feels a lot more naturalistic, and it has that gloss on it, which I kind of think versus a matte finish makes this particular sculpt feel a little bit more alive. So very excited to capture this this repaint once it hits stores later this year. But another exciting repaint that's on the way is Dilophosaurus. This is the second repaint of this, or the first repaint, second version of this particular mold. For Dilophosaurs, I've lost count how many we've gotten, but for this particular mold, it's the second one we're getting, and I'm really excited about it because it really matches coloration-wise with the Destructosaurus Dilophosaurus that really didn't get a whole lot of distribution when it came out. So this is sort of a callback to that, and they'll look really nice next to each other on the shelf, but of course, this Dilophosaurus mold has that super fun action feature that activates the frill, which is a lot of fun. That's probably the best part about that figure is the action feature. Of course, the other figure that we talked about last week was Velociraptor. So here it is again. It's sort of like a kit bash of a couple different Velociraptor figures already released from Mattel. We got the legs from the Attack Pack Raptor. It looks like the head from the Jumping Raptor. So sort of a mishmash, but there's obviously some sort of action feature too that we don't know quite yet what it is. It looks like something to do with maybe the waist or the hip, because there's a seam in the figure. So more to come on this one and kind of how that action feature works on the new Raptor. Another repaint that's exciting is this Gallimimus. This is the Savage Strike or Legacy Collection Gallimimus. I don't think it's ever actually come out in any form outside of Legacy Collection, so it's back for this repaint for Fierce Force. And even though it's not the wildest paint application, it's exciting to get this figure out again in some sort of capacity because it is such a beautiful mold, one of the best molds probably Mattel has ever done in terms of accuracy to the movie. So another Gallimimus on the way after a couple years sort of taking a break from the repaint game, joining Fierce Force later this year. And our final figure we have to go over is an all-new species. Again, I'm sorry if I'm butchering this name, but it's the Chialingosaurus, sort of like a Stegosaurus, but a little bit smaller with looks like bigger Thagomizer spikes and some spikes on its shoulder too. What's interesting about this one is the coloration. It's kind of all over the place. You can see the front legs are even cast in a different plastic, and that paint sort of matches on the underbelly with those legs. So it almost feels like a Chaos Effect Kenner dinosaur with all these different colors and spikes and all that. But an interesting new species that I personally didn't know about. So I always like to be educated on new dinosaur species. And Mattel's good at doing that, bringing all these species coming out. So that's pretty much all of the Fierce Force figures that we know about at this point. This picture here probably encompasses 2 or 3 waves of this assortment coming out in 2021. they don't just release all 6 new figures at a time. So we'll just have to wait and see what those waves entail. But pretty exciting stuff. New species, great repaints. And the same can be said for the Roar Attack figures. These are the $14.99 figures, sort of like the Roarivore Dual Attack Soundstrike, sort of that equivalent. And there's some good stuff here. We have a couple of Baryonyx on the way. We have Ceratosaurus, Ouranosaurus, Bumpy, Allosaurus. Lots of cool stuff to talk about here. But let's go ahead and talk about these Baryonyx that are based on Camp Cretaceous. I was assuming that these were going to be Baryonyx Grim, using that mold and then sort of applying it to other colors, but applying it to Chaos and Limbo, rather. But this actually looks like an all-new figure. It looks like there's some sort of different mechanism. The neck doesn't have the same joints as the Soundstrike version of Grim, so I guess we're getting an all-new Baryonyx figure for Limbo and Chaos. Pretty exciting stuff. Speaking of new figures of species, we already have Ceratosaurus here. We've had a couple Ceratosauruses, including one in this exact colorway, but not with this mold. This is an all-new mold, some sort of new action feature. You can see the button on the back, but a new pose, a new head sculpt. Again, based on its coloration from the show, Camp Cretaceous, which we already got a figure for, but it looks like they're releasing an all-new figure, part of the Roar Attack lineup. So more Camp Cretaceous synergy coming out in toy form. Another new figure, I put new in quotation marks because this is sort of a mishmash of a few different figures. This is Allosaurus. It looks like it is the Battle at Big Rock Allosaurus repaint, which in and of itself is sort of a retool of the Roarivore's Allosaurus. So for you deep toy collectors, there's a lot of different things going on here, but the coloration on this one is wild. We saw an early concept of this with that sort of splash of color on the neck, and it still looks great in the final toy form. But let's talk about something really exciting. Herbivores from Mattel, always a notable, remarkable release because they do so many carnivores. And this is Aranasaurus, and I love this thing. It looks huge. The colors look great. The sculpt looks incredible. Really excited about this one. Edmontosaurus was obviously one of the last exciting herbivores we got. And Aranasaurus just looks really, really impressive too. I love collecting these herbivores from Mattel, and I wish they would just do more and more. It seems like they only do about one a year. But this one is very exciting, and if this is the only one we get this year, I'm good with it because it just looks awesome. I love the colors. I love the design. It just looks like a really exciting figure. So probably the one I'm most excited about from this lineup. But there's another Baryonyx. I already mentioned the other one, so we are getting Limbo and Chaos this year for the Roar Attack line. And yeah, again, this one looks like it's an all-new figure. It looks like it shares the same sculpt as the other one, but again, notably different from that Grim Soundstrike that we got as part of Soundstrikes this year. So different sculpt, but we will be able to get all 3 Baryonyx that were featured in Camp Cretaceous, which is fun. Speaking of dinosaurs you want to own from Camp Cretaceous, nobody can deny the appeal of Bumpy, and here's Bumpy in its adult form. It does use the mold we already got for the adult Ankylosaurus, but I'm guessing this one has a different action feature. Don't quote me on that, but it seems like a lot of these other figures have retooled action features, so I wouldn't be surprised if this adult Bumpy has some sort of new tail swinging feature or something like that, but we'll just have to wait and see. But definitely Bumpy with those colors. We have the baby, and now we're going to be getting the adult. So Roar Attacks, again, a lot of exciting stuff here. Retools of existing species, all new species in that Aranasaurus. I'm just so excited about that thing, but I am really excited to own an adult Bumpy and those other Baryonyx as well. They're really leaning hard into the Camp Cretaceous show this year with their toys, which is no surprise at all. But that's about all I got to say about these new Soundstrikes, these new Roar Attacks, and of course, those Fierce Force, all coming out later this year as part of Mattel's Dino Escape line. Thanks for watching, though. I'll definitely keep you guys updated. Just make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time.